Warning: this film contains stories of abuse and human rights violations. Viewer discretion is advised. Ghana Federation of Disability Organizations and Ghana Somubi Dwumadie present Justice and Human Rights for Women and Girls with Disabilities.
In Ghana, people with disabilities form the majority of people facing exclusion and are more at risk. They are at risk because of the barriers they face to being included in society, and often people with disabilities rely on others to provide unpaid care. This at-risk situation makes them more likely to be subjected to exploitation, violence, and abuse. The situation is more acute for women with disabilities. Studies have shown that women and girls with disabilities are twice more likely to be abused as compared to their counterparts without disabilities.
I'm a seamstress and a fashion designer. I have a mental condition which is depressive psychosis. When I had my child, I was on carbamazepine and olazapine, and they said that carbamazepine was not good for pregnancy and breastfeeding, so they have to take me off it.
Charlotte, a person with mental health condition, speaking.
So they took me off. They didn't replace the carbamazepine with anything, so I was only on the olazapine. So I relapsed. My child was around 4 months that I relapsed. So a neighbor was taking care of the child, and I was at the hospital. I remembered I was wearing some dress that's a was print, so it could easily be torn. So when we were around the compound, one of my colleagues just hold my dress and tear it. I don't know what to do at the moment because he has torn part of the dress and part of my body was showing. And I was just looking for immediate solutions. So I saw a dress somewhere, so I just picked it and I was about to wear it. And the in charge came with cane and cane me very well. That's why did I take the dress? Afterwards, they went and locked me in a room for several days. The room too has no bed, it has no seat, there was no washroom. I was there doing everything in the room. And normally when my family comes like that, I used to ask of my child. Though I relapsed, I still remember that I have a child. So I've been asking how is the child doing, and so when they tell me something, it encourages me. But when I was in the room those 3 days, when my family comes, nobody was allowed to see me, so I was in the room alone. So I'll be shouting, I want to see my son, I want to see my son. And sometimes I would dream that my son is dead and so many things. So I wanted somebody to just tell me something to cool me down. But my family were not coming. So small, I was giving medication, so I got well and I came back.
We were together, then I gave birth to one boy. He made me understand that he is doing a project, so I should also take care of the house.
Felicia, a person with visual impairment, speaking.
So when I gave birth, I did everything with my pregnancy, my hospital bills, even clothes for the kids. I have been providing it. And the second one too came. When I gave birth to the small girl, after some 6 months or so, I found out I was pregnant. So I told him, and he said he doesn't want the baby, so I should get rid of the baby. But I didn't mind him. That brought the problem. His attitude changed towards me. He started insulting me with my disability. He made me feel bad. When I gave birth to the firstborn, he took the feeding bottle, so feeding him was easy for me. But when I gave birth to the second one, she doesn't want to take the feeding bottle. So sometimes feeding him, sometimes the food will be entering into his nose, and this guy will be there pleading with him to just feed the baby for me. He will not do it. Sometimes I have to send the girl to the school so that my colleague teachers will do that on my behalf. He doesn't allow me to talk to anybody. Like he was treating me very bad.
I have lived experience with bipolar disorder, which is a mental health condition.
Esinam, a person with lived experience of bipolar, speaking.
In 2019, after my national service, I was employed as a teacher in a school. So because of the stressful nature of the job, I began to get really worn out and tired. And I opened up to a member of management about my condition because she made me feel safe and said I could trust her. She even said she would read about the condition and they'll be there to support me and all that. So after opening up to her in less than 24 hours, I was called for a meeting and I was asked to share my story about my lived experience. So I shared it. Then I was told that because of my condition, I am dangerous and it's not safe for me to be around children. So it was actually even the school counselor who said that about me. I did not know that opening up about my condition will get me into any trouble, but even if it should, not to the extent of getting fired.
My name is Papa. First accident 204.
I was living with my husband and our 2 children before I had the first accident in 2004. I was hospitalized for 2 years.
Genevieve, a person with physical disability, speaking.
And when I came home, that was when the abuse started. He started chasing other women just because I became disabled. I was always told about him and a particular lady, but anytime I asked, he told me that they only went to church together. At a point, the lady started coming to the house. One day, I confronted her. I made her aware that I became disabled through an accident which could happen to her too. And so she should imagine herself in my situation and advise herself. I don't know what she went to tell my husband. We were then living in a chamber in a hall apartment. And after the accident, I was sleeping in the hall because I often got visitors. The following day, my husband came with a mason and a carpenter. The carpenter removed the bedroom door and the mason sealed the space. They quickly created a new door at the back of the building and then he brought all my belongings in the bedroom to me in the hall. He later came for the television and other stuff from the hall and sent them to the room at the back and was living there with a new woman. At a point, I couldn't bear it anymore. And so one day, when he went out, I went to the lady in the room. I asked her why she kept hurting me, despite the advice I gave her. That got her angry, and she suddenly got up and pushed me to the ground with my crutches. It was not easy for me at all.
Customary banishment of persons with albinism in some communities in Ghana. What it means is that persons with albinism are not allowed to reside or live in those communities because of certain beliefs and all that.
Mause, a person with albinism, speaking.
So we went into those communities to dialogue, and they did not allow us to even get off the bus. In this 21st century, we don't understand why those primitive beliefs will still be carried on from generation to generation, whereas albinism is science. It's very serious.
Such abuse and violation of rights dehumanize people with disabilities and further devalue their lives.
And things were going really bad. And my situation was because of depression that they brought me there. And what I'm going through made me more depressive.
It affects me a lot because sometimes I feel bad. I feel no one loves me. I don't have anybody to talk on my behalf just because I'm blind, and it really worries me. Sometimes when I'm at work, I don't have a sound mind.
It was difficult because I was unemployed for an entire year because before I got another job. And now when you look at my CV, because I've done a lot of work in the mental health community, I sometimes wonder if people would employ me because there's a lot of mental health work on my CV. So sometimes I even think, should I create another CV that doesn't look too mental health? You see, these are some of the issues that I have, and I think I shouldn't be thinking that way because this is me, this is my lived experience, this is my work, this is my worth. Any employer should be happy to have me because people with mental health conditions can work just as equally as those who do not have disabilities and conditions.
Unfortunately, most violations are not reported for several reasons.
First of all, when perpetrators are family members, and usually most of them are family members. If they are family members, it's difficult for them to report the issues because of fear that there will be a withdrawal of family support or neglect by the family.
Doris Indebugri, Program Officer, Ghana Federation of Disability Organizations, speaking.
In 2014, we did an engagement with some women in the Kwao West district. And out of the 20 women that we engaged, all of them had faced or experienced abuse in one way or the other, but none of them had reported the issues. Also, some of our people, that is persons with disabilities, are not also empowered enough to report some of these cases because they have limited knowledge of their rights.
Although I know what they were doing to me was not right, I didn't have any knowledge concerning those things that they can be sued or you can report to authorities and something will be done about it. Until I came to join Basic Needs, educating us on our rights and those things, I never knew I could have sued them.
In the Mental Health Act 2012, it says that nobody can be fired because of a past, present, existing mental health condition. I didn't even know my rights at that time, so I thought when they fired me, it was the right thing for them to do. I just didn't know that I had rights. If not, the story would have turned differently. I could have told them what they were doing was wrong and they would hear from me. But I just got up and then all I said was, I want to know when I'll be paid. And then they delayed the payments and that's when I started becoming afraid.
Unemployment also contributes to the reasons why they are not reported because of the dependence on some others for economic support or for support in general. Because if I am the one abusing you and I also support you in your daily living, it will be difficult for you to go and report me to the appropriate institutions. But if you are independent, you are working, and you don't depend on me, and I abuse you, you'll be able to report me. And then one other thing we see is that most of these institutions where the issues are to be reported are not accessible in terms of the physical environment and in terms of access to information. So for instance, all the institutions or most of the institutions do not have sign language services. So it is difficult for a deaf person to go to the police and then report a case because how is he going to interact with the police or even go to strike? These are some of the reasons why they do not report the cases.
Considering the difficulties in reporting such cases, one would have thought that the few who are able to muster the courage to report would receive all the support and given special attention by law enforcement agencies, considering that they are marginalized and excluded from society and how much discrimination they face. However, victims of abuse have got very bitter experiences with either the police or the court.
I was not satisfied. I was not satisfied at all because anytime we would go to the court, they were giving him opportunity to talk more than I do. And it really pains me. I feel bad. Sometimes I'll even cry, but they don't say anything. I think they think the guy was doing me a favor by marrying me. That is why they want to allow the guy to talk more than I do. And it shouldn't be so. When I go there sometimes, like couples that have been coming there with their problems, and sometimes I hear it, like they give them opportunity to talk, but I don't understand the reason why if I want to talk, they will say I should keep quiet, but they'll give the guy opportunity to talk. Being a visually impaired or being a disabled person doesn't mean you are less a human being. What the normal person can do, you can also do it. Me, for instance, apart from my sight that maybe even if I'm going out, I'll need assistance or something like that. If I'm in the house, you never know I'm a visually impaired. I do everything on my own. I scrub, I wash, I cook. I take off my case alone. So they shouldn't look down upon us. They should give us the opportunity to talk.
The part. We also play on my part. But unfortunately, see, I did not crack case.
When I sent the case to the police, unfortunately, the investigator handled the case badly. All because the lady in question attended the same church as him. And so, because of the church-member relationship, I was not treated well. Eventually, I had to withdraw from pursuing the case.
These challenges create systemic barriers for people with disabilities in accessing justice. They also affect a justice-seeking culture amongst people with disabilities.
That is a very big worry for GFD because it is an indication that even though a lot of effort has been put in place to protect the rights of everybody or every citizen, not much attention has been given to the rights of persons with disabilities, and this is actually a concern for us.
Evidence and data to enable a comprehensive assessment of the human rights situation of people with disabilities in Ghana is essential. The police and the Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice have a critical role to play in gathering evidence and documenting criminal cases involving the violation of the rights of people with disabilities and promoting human rights and administrative justice. However, there is a little evidence to show that people with disabilities, including people with mental health conditions, are accessing the services of the police or the Human Rights Commission. This lack of data on reported cases of violence, exploitation or abuse against people with disabilities is affecting the work of civil society organizations working for the rights of people with disabilities in the country, including the Ghana Federation of Disability Organizations, that relies heavily on data and evidence for its advocacy work.
That affects our work, especially when we are trying to push for appropriate policies to be put in place to protect the rights of persons with disabilities. You know, GFD is an advocacy organization, so our work is being supported by reliable data and evidence. So in the absence of the disability data in these institutions make our advocacy work very weak, and we are unable to push for the appropriate policies.
To address these challenges, it will take a collective effort among those subjected to human rights violations, law enforcement agencies, and members of the public, especially those who are closer to the survivors, to achieve results.
The concept of human rights acknowledges that every single human being is entitled to his fundamental human rights to ensure the realization of their full potentials in life.
Mary Nati, Director of Human Rights, Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice, speaking.
That means they have entitlements, they are right holders. And as right holder, you claim your rights, you yourself or through another person or an institution. And so the good news is that even with the discrimination report, an institution can report on your behalf if you yourself cannot come forth with your issue.
We want them to also contact GFD if necessary, because we'll be able to support them and direct them to the right places where they are supposed to report their cases.
We have 16 offices in the regional capitals. We have 2 sub-regional offices, Tema, Obuasi. We have 173 district offices across the whole country. Our services are free. Then we are saying that the concept says no discrimination whatsoever. So where they are discriminated against, the commission is available as a point of call for them to report their issue, for us to deal with it. They shouldn't hesitate at all.
As persons with disabilities are encouraged to report abuse, they also have expectations of how duty bearers should do their work to inspire the culture of justice seeking among them.
When it was not showing up, I don't know his whereabouts. I went to the court to find out what they are doing about the case. And they told me I should go and search for him. If I know his whereabouts, I should come and inform them. But I said, how can a visually impaired look for a person who abused her because I can't see? So there should be a system, a very strong system that will take care of that to help us when there is a problem like this, that they can come to our aid to fight for us.
This and all future government must recognize that we persons with disabilities are their responsibility, and so they must make every law that would protect our rights and improve our lives. Again, law enforcement agencies should ensure that we get justice when our rights are violated, and we report to them and not look down on us.
Persons with disabilities will be encouraged to send their cases when they are abused if priority is given to their cases. If I am at home and I find out that it took 2 or 3 years for Sinam to get justice, nobody will be encouraged to go and send their case. But if my case is given priority, or I even find a lawyer who is willing to take my case pro bono, I think more people will be encouraged. Because the thing about dispensing justice, that yes, it may take some time, but those 2 years, what am I going to be doing at home when I don't have a job, when I can't get a job? I will not be able to take care of myself, my family. I'll be suffering while waiting. So I think that those who are in charge of dispensing justice, we should please give priority to people with persons with disabilities, and then institutions which are in charge of promoting the rights of people with disabilities and mental health conditions. I think it's high time they start educating people with disabilities and conditions about their rights. When you empower someone and let them know their rights, nobody can infringe upon them. It's like it makes you more bold enough to speak back to whoever is trying to infringe upon your rights. It can be on TV, radio, in different languages, so that people learn and they are aware. The more these things are normalized, the more people realize that, even employers, they will realize that, oh, so really there are some rights there to protect people with disabilities and mental health conditions. Then if I fire someone from my workplace, what I'm doing is infringing upon their rights.
Again, we have a online discrimination reporting system. It is online because we acknowledge the fact that sometimes not everybody can access our offices physically. And so we have persons who can go online and report via our discrimination reporting system. It is free, like I've said. On that reporting system, we also have what we call toll-free numbers, where you can call for free and we'll take your complaints. I will put out the toll-free number 0800 330 330. We also have SMS short code, where if you can't call, you can just do SMS text message *920* then 56#. That is the SMS short code. A mobile line where you can also call anytime. We know that people may access our services after we have closed, so that one too. Anywhere the officer is, the officer can pick your call and take your issue. 050 755 4368. 050 755 4368. That's the complaint unit.
Duty bearers are expected to make information about rights and how to report violations available and accessible to people with disabilities. People responsible for dispensing justice are encouraged to prioritize cases involving people with disabilities and ensure that they are given fair hearings and justice. The government is expected to make sign language services mandatory at the police stations and the court to facilitate reporting of abuse. Other things expected to improve are making the police stations and courtrooms disability-friendly, and full implementation of legislations and policies meant to better the lives of people with disabilities.
Acknowledgement. Ghana Federation of Disability Organizations, GFD, Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice, SHRAJ, Ghana Blind Union, Ghana Society of the Physically Disabled, and Ghana Association of Persons with Albinism. A Ghana Somubi Dwumadie documentary funded by UK Aid.